Hello, and welcome to Leyline High Rewind. This is a re-listen, re-watch podcast.
Yeah, if you will,
of the infamous children's TV series Leyline High. I'm Gemma Arrowsmith.
I'm Thomas Nelstrop.
And I'm Susan Harrison.
We'll be your guides through this very long-running children's TV show.
Awfully long-running.
So long-running.
30 years it ran for. I mean, we were sort of debating, weren't we, whether to give it an intro because everyone's heard of Leyline High. So,
yeah.
I mean, anyone who's anybody, right, has heard about it.
It's such a sort of British institution, but I guess just in case you're listening and you're not from the UK, you might have missed it.
Good point.
Or if you were like one of the characters and you were in a coma for 30 years.
You want to relive those moments to try and, trigger some memories.
Yeah.
Or you've just clicked on this randomly, not really understanding what it is. We should explain, I guess, what Leyline High is. So I thought I'd go on the Wikipedia page.
Yes, brilliant.
And it's a long Wikipedia page.
It is.
Guys. It's one of those ones where someone's really invested in it. Leyline High is a British children's supernatural drama television series. It was produced by the BBC and ran for over 14,000 episodes.
Wait,
Can that
what?
be right? The series centred around the fictional Leyline High School, which was built on the intersection of two ley lines and therefore subject to unexplained supernatural phenomena.
Should we play a little bit of the music just to refresh people?
Right, I think this is going to ignite a lot of nostalgia in our listeners. So here's a warning. There's a nostalgia explosion is coming.
Yeah, and it's a bit of an earworm. I will warn you.
True.
You will never be able to forget this music.
Let's play the theme tune. Here it comes. Oh, what a banger. Absolutely brilliant. Now, they retuned this a few times throughout its run. So there was a slightly different version in the 80s,
A sort of
believe.
techno-y sort of version, yeah.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Because kids were really into techno.
I love it when you can really sense that the music supervisor or producer or whatever is really trying to get in the mind of a child.
Yes, and that happens a lot.
Trying to, there was the sort of rapping theme tune version. Do you remember that one? With the sort of very basic rapping. And then like later on when the vocals were all kind of like, in the sort of...
Celine Dion era, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was around the Titanic and things like that, right?
But it's a pretty seismic 30 years that it ran for.
Yeah.
We should say, listeners, that we are recording in a Leyline High connected place. We are in a music studio, and these are the production offices where they did some of the post-production on Leyline High in the 90s.
And this studio is actually on a ley line.
Is it? Have you looked that up? Is that true?
I don't know if that's true.
Oh.
It probably is, though.
Probably is. I mean,
probably
ley lines
is.
are everywhere.
Yeah, they
these
are.
days.
They are. They connect, all kinds of stuff.
If it's the intersection of two, we're in trouble.
I did feel a bit of spookiness.
Bit ley liney.
Yeah,
And that proves it.
Touch of the ley lines.
Go on, the ley lines. See a doctor about that. Eh? But wait, Gemma, exactly what is a ley line?
Just get it off the top of your head.
Please tell us.
via Google.
Wait.
Was that seamless?
It's one of those things that you kind of think you know what it is.
It's one of those things that when you were a kid, it was really important, like a
Yes.
Bermuda Triangle sort of thing,
Yeah.
or quicksand.
Yeah.
So a ley line is a straight alignment drawn between various historic structures, prehistoric sites and prominent landmarks. And they're basically, they sound like these ancient things, but actually it was a 1960s sort of invention that sort of a lot of interesting things and artifacts were found along a straight line. And so I guess that movement came about in the 60s. Leyline High started in 1972, so it was all sort of bubbling around, this idea that there were straight lines crisscrossing the country, and this high school was built on the intersection of two of these ley lines where all sort of interesting, spooky stuff would happen.
I think ley lines have been around for even longer than that, but in the 60s, definitely that's when it became a sort of
this
thing,
huge
right?
emergence of ley lines being a source of power. Yeah, that's an explanation of what ley lines are, and it's Leyline High. I never even thought about it as a kid.
And the word was ley line.
Leyline.
we should talk about our introductions to the series. Like, when did you first come in? Because I used to love this show.
Yeah.
Did you both love it as well, or are you more recent converts?
No, I loved it. For me,
yeah.
it was very much part of the like coming home from school, like
Definitely.
5:15, you know, with my little pot of yogurt.
Sitting cross-legged.
Yes.
Which I don't... Legged? Legged or legged?
Legged, I think, yeah.
Legged.
And it was really annoying on the nights when I had like brownies or drama club or whatever, because then obviously I wouldn't be able to watch it.
Miss
Mm.
it?
Yeah, I'd
Oh,
miss
no.
it. Like for me, I like the fact that it kind of followed me through my life. Probably the same for
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
as well. Like through the 80s, through the 90s, through the early noughties. Like I felt like I really grew up with it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Wasn't it part of the syllabus for some
yes,
period?
that's right.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There was that bit with New Labour, wasn't there?
Yeah.
When they were trying to shake things
Really?
up a bit in the was it in
In
English?
the early years, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was English.
I remember it on my
and,
mocks. Yeah.
Results went through the roof as a result. I've said result twice.
Yeah, because you didn't have to remember any facts because everyone had watched it.
Yeah.
And they gave you a bit of the script to analyse, didn't they? In the mock GCSE
That's ringing
exam.
a bell.
Yeah.
That's ringing a bell. Should we talk about some of our favourite characters and storylines? Because I'm a bit of a purist. I really like the early stuff, so I've gone back because it used to be shown on UK Gold, like some of the early
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
went back and I've watched a lot of the 70s bits, and I love the 70s era. So I'm a big fan of Joseph Pickle. He is a Victorian boy who fell through a time rift and finds himself in the geography department. I just love him. He's such a funny character. He's so all of his he's all very sort of buttoned up, and it's his sort of culture clash with the modern era. Just it used to crack me up, and he was in it for something like 4 or 5 years, and I think he's probably my favourite character.
Wasn't there was a few like sort of time rift stories,
It was
weren't there?
constant.
Because
Yeah.
during like the miners' strike and stuff like that, it was quite a
Yes.
famous one where like they went down a mine and there
That's
was
right.
another Victorian
boy.
ghost.
There's a lot of Victorian boys and girls around.
Yeah.
I liked that's reminded me of the dinner lady, Margaret the dinner lady.
I knew you were going to say Margaret.
Yeah,
Amazing character.
I know, right? And so I think that was in the 80s and Margaret.
What was it she used to say?
She used to say, "I'll snatch your milk.
I'll
kids."
snatch your milk, kids.
And do you remember she made
That was
all
around
of the milk
Thatcher, wasn't it?
disappear?
That was-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they had like
that was a not a very subtle dig.
no,
at Thatcher.
it's so not subtle. Because one of the writers, because as we know, one of the writers was very left wing, weren't they? And they were trying.
Yeah.
They did go through phases of trying to really crowbar in some,
Yeah.
like you said, not very subtle messages. Yeah,
But yeah, I'll snatch your milk, kids.
yeah.
Brilliant.
I'll snatch your milk, kids.
I had this is true, at school, there was a kid with one of those badge making machines.
Wow.
Do you remember those? And she was called Stephanie, and she made badges that said, "I'll snatch your milk, kids."
Oh,
I got
that's
one.
amazing.
I wish I still had
You have to
mine.
bring it in next time. Oh, if you've still got it.
I don't know if I've got it. I don't think I've got it anymore, but wouldn't that be a treasure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing.
I had this weird, not to go on a tangent, but I had this weird watch that you could change into a robot and back. And I got detention once, and I was like, "It's all right. I've got my watch that turns into a robot. I can do this all day." I was like, I was just changing it back into a watch, and anyway, that's not. There was some.
That's very Leyline High.
Well, there is that robot
Yeah.
scene, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That was around the Star Wars era where they were trying to cash
Yeah,
in on
late
that.
70s.
There was a droid.
There was a droid teacher, right?
Yeah.
There's a teacher that's outed as a droid. And so it was what,
It's
78?
pretty obvious that he's a droid.
So year after Star Wars came out, yeah. But that's kind of what you were saying, Susan, is that you can kind of chart the 30 years of British history against Leyline High, because there was sort of pop culture references, there was political references, and we're really curious to know from our listeners, what are your favourite characters and sort of favourite eras of the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
guess.
think that's a great question because, like you were saying, Gemma, your favourite era is
Definitely the early stuff.
Yeah,
From
what-
before I was born, really. I love all that. Yeah.
What about you, Tom? What's your favourite era?
I like the 80s stuff because it sort of delved into a bit more sort of actiony because they knew their audience and they
Love a
they
bit
were
of
they were
action.
fighting with a lot of different programs at that point, and there was a lot. Yeah, that was the stuff I was into. Just the shenanigans that happened when these kids sort of like were out of class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. They got a dressing down from the TV authority, didn't they? Because there was too
There
much
was
gore.
and there was a
They were
motorbike
told.
race, and they were like hitting each other with chains and stuff.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing that they could get away with that because there was a lot of like blood and it was really believable. I remember that because I'm quite squeamish. But for me, it was more the sort of 90s, mid-90s into early noughties that I was really into because then they were really exploring like the characters. I don't know, like there was sort of rites of passage stuff. Do you remember Angela? Who everyone said was sort of inspired by My So-Called Life?
Yes, yes.
And she always had like hennaed hair and was just really cool but really troubled in that kind of 90s non-specific troubled way.
You're
which
a
I
real
really
champion
liked.
of this era. Now, I think that generally people say that this is when the show was starting to lose its way a little bit and was really kind of scrabbling around to find its identity. And like we were saying, it's sort of it's kind of aping aspects of My So-Called Life and so on. But you're a real champion of this era. It's like one of your favourites, isn't it?
For sure. Because then they really got into the detail of how the characters felt.
Yeah.
You know, they could really... And even with the supernatural stuff, they could...
I hate all that
but this
stuff
is like literally
with,
all that
how did they
matters.
feel? Close up
Such
on
a
how they
boy.
feel.
Yeah, that was the best bit. I was so invested. I was so invested in the will they, won't they. In the multiple will they, won't they.
I was more of a they better. And they better do it. They better do it quick.
Yeah. I was like, no, please take as long as you possibly can to just draw out this feeling of longing.
For another couple of episodes. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Well, and then it did eventually get cancelled, as we know. This, unfortunately, it was the sort of, in the late 90s, it was the kind of the slowing down era, and it was eventually cancelled in 2002. It was a real shame, but they did a really beautiful final episode, which we will talk about in the series. And there were immediately, I remember there were petitions to bring it back.
Yeah.
Like straight away. Because it really did, people really missed it. Even people who hadn't watched it for years were going, you can't cancel it though. It's an institution. It's been running for so long.
Didn't Michael Burke sort of present something on the news about a petition that was...
I wonder...
I remember that
if
quite
we can
vividly.
If we can find the clip, we'll put it in because it was literally on the news.
Yeah.
That's how big...
It was a major
massive.
big deal, and like people were crying around. There was people gathered around the studios, weren't there? Like literally
leaving
having
flowers
to be,
and
little teddy bears, and people had to be like carried away. They were hysterical.
Yeah.
That was how much it impacted people's lives. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but I do get it.
Yeah.
I wasn't
totally.
there.
You were. You were there going, will they, won't they?
Yeah.
I'll never find out now.
I know, it's so devastating. Yeah.
And there was very briefly in the later 2000s, there was a revival series, which, I mean, least said the better.
Yes.
Probably it was not successful. And there was then a petition to cancel it again, wasn't there? So it was like,
with an equal number of people to bring back the old days.
just people who'd signed the original petition going, we were wrong, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So
We, the undersigned.
So we will talk about that final series and the revival later, but we should probably focus on the first episode. So you can go and you can watch the first episode, because obviously I wasn't around when this first episode went out, 1972, it's before I was born. But you can go back now in the wonderful streaming era, and with YouTube, you can go and watch it whenever you want. And it's a real treat, this first episode, isn't it?
It's brilliant. So much happens. You don't expect it. It's kind of slow moving at first, and
It
then
is very
suddenly
slow moving, and then
it
all kicks
plunges
off.
you into this world. I love it, right? Because it starts off and you think it's just a normal show. So, it's a school show. It's a show set in a school. Yeah, we've seen these before, and it's the kids coming in, and it's their first day and everything. We'll play a clip, actually. So, here is a clip from that first episode. It introduces Mr. Talbot, the head teacher, and we'll talk more about him later. But this is the sort of opening moments of the show, really. Here it is.
No running! It's the first day of the new school year. You're supposed to be setting an example to the new year 7s. There'll be plenty of time to rush outside of school hours.
Excuse me.
Are you talking to me?
Yes?
I didn't hear a sir in there.
Oh, excuse me.
Idiot. I swear they get stupider every year, Miss McMaynard.
Well, you know what they say, Mr. Talbot. You can't teach a cat.
To do what?
No, that's the saying. You can't teach a cat. I should know, I've tried. We said no running in the corridors. That means you, Louise Marsh.
Well, that was insightful, wasn't it? Because we meet Mr. Talbot, the head teacher.
Yeah, and Miss McMaynard, the deputy.
And also we get a real sense of the acting, which I love that 1970s acting.
Acting is oozing from the screen.
Yeah, like, because these were primarily, well, the kids, lots of them hadn't acted before, obviously, but lots of the adults were theatre actors, right?
Coming and it's real theatre performances, isn't it? It's like they're trying to reach the back of the stalls. And we saw head teacher, Mr. Talbot there. He was played by a brilliant actor called Arthur Lately, who we'll talk about later. I just love him. And then Miss McMaynard is played by Julie Dixon. Now, Arthur Lately, big theatre actor. Julie Dixon, small method actor, quite different. And they, I'm told, didn't get on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I think they do a great job of not putting that animosity on the screen.
Yeah.
But sometimes it does bubble up.
I heard that it was like, they were like, this is how I heard it described to me, that they were like boxers, and as soon as they went cut, they would go to opposite sides of the room just because they couldn't. If they talked, they'd argue.
Yeah, like, he was not an easy guy to get on with. But anyway, we'll come on to that later.
We will, yes, and you're completely right. He was a character.
Oh, I wondered what you were going to say.
Said character. Yeah. There was a little bit of a pause after the C.
He was a card.
A card.
So yeah, it's the first day. You heard it there. I love the expositional dialogue where it's the first day of the new school year and all of that sort of thing. And what I love is they're lulling you into thinking this is just a normal school drama. I love that.
Should we play the next scene?
Yeah, let's play another scene. So here's just the more sort of expositional students.
Oh, and listen out for the Scouse accent in this one. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Ugh, double maths, first thing back. Wake me up when it's home time.
I've got geography, but I don't know where to go.
You failed already then.
All right, smarty pants. Hey, see you around the tennis courts for a ciggy at break time.
Hey, you shouldn't do that stuff, you know. It's bad for your health.
What?
And it's not cool with the girls.
And you should know. Have you even got a girlfriend yet?
Hey, shut up! Shut up!
Get off!
Get off me!
Get off me, bottle!
That was so good. I loved that. What is with the random Liverpudlian?
It's a cosmopolitan school. They're from everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And also some of these young actors love throwing in an accent. They're going, no, I can do this accent, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I'm brilliant at it. And then they've already filmed a scene and it's too late to go back. So then they're locked into this accent they're not great at.
And do you know what? When that thermos falls out of scene because they're obviously fighting over it.
Yeah.
Did you notice? But there's that little like as if it hits one of the like the crew or like
oh my God,
camera
really?
operator or
Let's
something.
hang on. We'll play it again. Let's have a listen.
Hey, shut up! Shut up! Get off me!
Get off me, bottle!
Oh yeah.
There's a little.
We're gonna. I've not heard that before.
Did you hear that?
I don't think I've ever noticed that before.
That's amazing, isn't it?
I don't think I've ever noticed that before.
That's so brilliant. Because obviously they couldn't do millions and millions of takes.
No.
Today from every angle, I guess.
It's got to be bish bash bosh because
Yeah.
they're bringing out them at such a rate.
Yeah, it wasn't recorded as live like it would have been in the 60s, and it certainly wasn't going out live like it would have been in the 40s and 50s. But so it's 72 this episode, but they were just recording at such a speed. Yeah, they couldn't really go back and do retakes. Very rarely is what I've heard. Do retakes. So that's why you'll notice sometimes there are some fluffed lines as well.
And there's awkward pauses.
Awkward pauses, and it is like watching a play.
Yeah.
Far more than television, don't you think?
In fact, let's play the rest of that scene because it's a really awkward, eggy pause.
Yeah, are we carrying on? Yeah, okay, let's play it.
I don't know. I think he's cute. You think everyone's cute. You think a rock was cute. Some rocks are cute. Are we going shopping later? Yes. I need to buy an iron. An iron? What for? To get my house orderly badge for brownies. Oh, me too.
Oh my God, I love how unashamedly sexist
The
it is.
stereotypes are set up.
But it's so 1970s sexism as well. Really, that's so of its era. I mean, it's almost lovely to hear that kind of nostalgic sexism again, as opposed to
It's
today's
a shame,
misogyny.
really, because it actually
It is
was...
quite a forward show in other
Yeah,
respects.
it
right?
yeah.
is.
I think
And-
it just went through that phase.
I agree, and when it went into the 80s and 90s, you didn't get so much of this.
No.
and it was really quite progressive and brilliant female characters in it.
Yeah.
I think.
But I think that's what's really interesting about it is that you can you can follow how culture has moved on.
That's true, yeah.
By how the program progressed. And as you say, there were some brilliant female, young, strong female characters.
I think my theory is it was a sort of Trojan horse. They
Right.
got it past the line with this script.
Yeah.
And then
I
they're like,
see.
we're going to subvert this.
Yeah, maybe. Because the writers were really, in lots of ways,
Yeah.
like you said, really progressive,
Yeah.
quite edgy at times. So, yeah, you're right. Maybe this was their entrance in
But also
to getting
it was-
a series.
It was
Yeah.
created by famously by three people.
Yeah.
Which is interesting in itself, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not one sole creator. It's created by three, and two of these three people are women. So,
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know,
Yeah, there's Terence B. Copeland.
Beverly Shank.
and Jacqueline Jackson, who's just known as Jackie.
Jackie Jackson.
Jackie Jackson.
I imagine that she's like, Jackie Jackson. She's got a cigar, which is probably not true at all.
Our quest really is to try and meet the writers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Try and meet the creators. That's what we'd love from this podcast. If we get anything out of this, if we could meet
That would be
them.
amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now, they famously, can we say this, had a falling out.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had we can say this, right? This is,
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
common
yeah,
knowledge.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so the three creators had a big falling out about sort of, something like 15 years into making the show or something like that. And no one knows what that falling out was about. But now, if you ask them about Leyline High, or if you ask them about one of the other writers, you get a very frosty response, and no one knows why. So our quest on this podcast is to, meet the creators, and could we get them in the same room together? Okay,
And
Let's
so
shoot for the moon.
that's
Yeah.
the mission statement.
Oh, golly. My mum says I'm not allowed nail varnish until I'm 18.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a school drama if it didn't have bullies.
Bit of bullying.
Bit of bullying. Episode 1, we've got, I actually think Veronica's a great character. She's the main bully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here she is bullying, what's his name?
Jack.
Brimstone. Jack Brimstone. I mean, that's important that his second name is Brimstone.
It's subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really subtle.
Let's play a little bit of her introductory scene when she arrives like a bullet into Jack Brimstone's
Jack's life.
Here we go.
Watcha, Jack Splat. What are you writing there in your little book there?
Oh, nothing for the likes of you anyway.
What's this, Indonesian?
Give me that back. Give me that back, or mark my words, you'll regret it.
I said it's break time. Everybody out.
We'll deal with him later.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that, Miss Veronica.
You'll regret it. I'll make sure of that.
It's hot enough.
What does he mean?
It's getting
What does he
exciting.
mean? And also, what is he doing?
I love the commitment
He's
of
really
that
committed
young
to that.
actor because he's only, I don't know how old he is, pretty young.
Yeah, they must have looked
11,
high and
12.
low for an actor of that
So
who was
you-
able to pull that off.
He's brilliant,
Yeah.
and you can probably find a clip of this on YouTube. And to be honest, it's almost a meme, isn't it? I've
Yeah.
seen this.
Yeah,
used.
it's almost as if his head has rotated. I'm not
He's
sure how
done
they
it
do
so
that.
well.
And with the red eyes as well.
Yeah. So I've definitely seen this used as a meme of when someone's really angry about something that someone's
Yes.
done, when your mum won't let you.
Yeah,
You know,
bringing
watch-
Jack Brimstone's
Exactly, and then a picture of Jack Brimstone with Yeah, he's brilliant in this scene, I think.
And this is like the first taste, I think, of the supernatural
Yeah.
element
Absolutely.
in this episode. And
Yeah.
I
So
just
can you
thought-
imagine? So go
Yeah,
on. You can
well-
imagine those audiences watching in the 1970s.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is like a sort of record scratch. Like, hang on, what? I thought this was just a normal school drama. We should say, if you've not seen the episode, do go and watch it. But if you haven't, when Veronica says, "What's this, Indonesian?" or whatever
Yeah.
it is, she says she's showing Jack's exercise book, and it's full of these mystical incantations and evil-looking runes and things like that. And so.
And I have, with my tech-savvy mind, I basically zoomed in because I was like, what did I just see on that book?
Yeah.
And it is. Look, it's a cock and ball.
No way.
Can we say
I've
that?
ever seen
But
That's
like
amazing.
that is.
That's going to be an art department person having a bit of fun.
Maybe they were over it already. First day.
That's amazing.
I love things like that on old telly where you wouldn't. This is 72, so this is before This is before VCRs were commonly available. There were people recording things off TV at this point, but that was a special interest thing. And so generally, you watched it go out or you didn't watch it, and so there's no option to rewind. And so that's why you do get some of these little Easter eggs of like someone's drawn a cock and balls or whatever in the background, and it's like it would be on screen for half a second, but now it's on YouTube forever, and you've discovered one. And that's brilliant.
Well done.
And I'm really proud of the fact that I've discovered that.
That's amazing. Like, this is genuinely an exclusive. And also, I love the fact that drawing a cock and balls is such a universal, timeless thing.
It
like,
is,
genuinely,
it is.
I think that's brilliant.
So let's come to the finale of this episode. So we find out that Jack Brimstone's parents are demons.
Yes.
He comes from a family of demons.
As you do.
And so he uses this against the bullies. And if you weren't sold on this show before, the finale of the first episode, I think, is a tour de force.
There's some great practical effects in there.
So basically what happens is the finale all happens in the canteen, and Veronica comes up again to Jack. He's seated with a friend, Sally.
I love Sally.
A new friend.
A new friend.
Aw.
Because everyone thinks he's weird. Everyone thinks Jack's weird, and let's be honest, he is weird.
Yeah.
You know, and
They're
so
all weird though, right?
Yeah, a lot.
They're all weird.
That's a really good point, actually.
They're all a fish out of water.
But
Yeah.
no one.
There's no water.
No, exactly.
There's no water for miles.
But
But
load
no
of
one
weird
will-
fish.
It's like one of those situations where no one will sit with him except Sally.
And Sally is like I love how like sort of delightfully puny she is. Do you know what I mean? Like very of that era, like very pale, very posh. Yeah,
so posh. Yeah.
I think it's quite sweet, their friendship.
Yeah.
Obviously that's what I was drawn to in the episode, was their friendship. All about.
Whereas I imagine,
Boring.
Tom, you were probably drawn to the hellmouth that opens
yes,
up.
tell us
Yes,
about it.
say what?
You didn't expect this in episode 1. So Jack uses his demonic powers to open a mouth to hell.
Yes.
In the first episode in the canteen, and Veronica gets like pulled down into it, leaving only her head and just a bunch of viscera behind. I can't believe this went out at 5:15.
I can't believe there's that much blood.
5:15.
Yep.
So
I don't know how they
much
got
blood.
away with it.
So much.
It was even like quite hard to watch now.
Was this around the
YouTube.
time of Carrie? Was Carrie before this, or
that's a
was
good
because this is
It's a good
this is?
question.
I would say I would fathom a guess that this was more
First?
blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Than in
definitely.
that
It's
scene.
definitely
Sure.
more
Yeah.
blood.
Yeah.
It's definitely more blood. So we're going to play a little clip. We
I
can't
mean,
play
spoiler
too
alert.
much.
We've told them what happens.
I
now, but
suppose.
we may as well show them.
Do go and watch the episode, but here is a little clip from that amazing finale.
Let's sit here. There's loads of room.
I'm not sitting next to the likes of him. He's weird. There's all sorts of weird stories about him and his family. Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
What's EBGBs?
Search me, but I don't want to stick around long enough to find out.
Do you mind if I sit here?
If you like, it's a free country.
Don't listen to them. It's all talk.
It's not them. That's the problem.
How do you mean?
They're right. I'm not like other people. The thing about my family.
Oh, what do we have here? This is cosy. Nice mushy peas. Be a shame if you drop them.
She's just pushed his face in mushy peas.
Like some curry sauce with that.
And poured curry sauce all over him. Hey, that's enough. Leave him alone.
Oh, are you his girlfriend or something? Here, what's he doing? He's mumbling something. He's got something in his hands. Stop it! You're weird. Stop it!
Shouldn't have done that.
His eyes are all red, like a dog's. Let's get out of here. He's not worth it.
She's been dragged into hell screaming. Huh, that's not in the dictionary.
What the hell is going on? Jack Brimstone, a word.
Yes, sir.
What was that back there?
I told you I was different.
Not that different. We've both got a spelling test now.
Too right.
That was, I mean, that's just so, it's just a lot, isn't it? In
It's
all
a
the
lot
best
to
possible
take
ways.
on.
But I love that. I love that commitment that the writers had of like,
Yeah.
we're going to have a Hellmouth. Why not?
Yeah.
I love that about some children's telly, that you think actually it's going to be more overseen, but I think it's sort of in this era often it has fewer eyes on it, so they can get away with more.
So many programs I've seen, and I just remember moments, particularly from Leyline High, but other things as well.
Yeah.
Just statues moving in weird.
Yeah.
Fingernails growing out of people's skin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God, I know which episode you're talking about with that. That's an amazing
Cheese
one.
grating the face.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That was a high concept bullying.
Losing your scream. That was another. That's psychologically terrifying.
These are all brilliant. We want
Anyway.
listeners. Will you write in with your favourite, please? Because your favourite storyline, your favourite characters, because we've ran for 30 years. So I imagine you will have. As soon as you saw this podcast, you probably thought about your favourite moment. Do write in with your favourite moment. Okay. We should also talk about, there's some brilliant expositional dialogue in that.
Yes, I love that.
You know what I'm going to talk about?
Snotty Kid.
Snotty Kid.
Snotty Kid's amazing.
There's a snotty kid.
That's not in the dictionary.
Can I just say, is that what they're called on the credits? We should go
Snotty
back and
kid,
Snotty
yeah.
Kid.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
we
that's
should have a look at
amazing.
that.
And it's one of those kids that's got like a candle of snot.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but
no, but you're right.
That is right.
That was very true to life because
Yeah.
as
think that's
kids
a-
at primary school, there was always, or secondary school,
A
there
snotty
was
kid.
always one.
Is that prosthetics?
I think the kid
Prosthetics
brought their own
brought
snot.
their own snot. He brought his a snot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He brought his a snot.
Snotty Kid delivers the exposition in that
Mm-hmm.
scene. I love it. So often you'd get that if anything they couldn't achieve, they'd sometimes, if they didn't have the budget, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they'd have a kid say what was going on.
Yes, and sometimes a teacher would as well.
and sometimes
wouldn't
a
they?
teacher would, that's
But you're
true.
right. it
I'm
would-
wondering actually
yeah.
now you've said that maybe they shot his stuff first just in case the effects
They couldn't
didn't
get
work.
it. I reckon that's exactly what happened. Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
I think that's exactly what happened. So we're just going to play a couple of Snotty Kid's lines again.
She's just pushed his face in mushy peas and poured curry sauce all over him. She's been dragged into hell screaming.
It's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Oh, he's been dragged into hell screaming. Well, yeah, we've just seen that.
Yeah.
So I think that's exactly what it was.
That's
Yes.
it. But I guess, like, because we were saying earlier, they couldn't afford to do loads of takes. And with those big practical effects, they only had one shot.
Yeah,
really,
they got
at
something
the
to
hell.
cut away to.
Yeah.
Don't be too technical
Yeah.
about it.
I told you I was different.
Not that different. We've both got a spelling test now.
So a little sort of culmination of and Jack and Sally's friendship there,
Which was lovely.
so nice. They carry on. They both Jack and Sally are in it for a few seasons, and they until like the actors outgrew.
Yeah.
They're. I mean, obviously, they wanted loads of kids that were proper kids, but they also cast sort of stage school kids that were a few years older. So sometimes people would sort of age out of the parts, and by the time, they're meant to be 16, they're actually like 23 or something like that.
It's kind of like the Rizzo effect, isn't it?
That's right.
When you're
Yes,
watching, you're
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
How old are you?
And do you know what I love about that scene is that all this stuff has happened. Like the gates to hell have literally opened, and everyone's been maimed and mutilated. And then Mr. Talbot comes in. Jack Brimstone, a word.
His catchphrase.
His catchphrase. And that's just amazing, isn't it? It's just like, we can go wherever we want with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing first episode, I think. If this were now I understand that it didn't have a pilot. It went straight to the first 13 episode series.
Those were the days.
Yeah, my goodness.
When
Can you imagine how many
have
pilots?
I know.
You'd have to do like a taster tape, an unbroadcast pilot, a broadcast pilot.
So this, in a way, brings us, I think, this brings us to the attention of Mr. Talbot, right?
Yeah. So
He wraps up the episode.
Is it Talbot?
Talbot,
Or
sorry.
Talbot
I don't
or
know.
Talbot?
Talbot? Yeah.
I imagine over the 17 years he was on the show, it was pronounced both ways.
Yes.
But yeah, in every episode, we should say, of our podcast, we're going to focus on, first of all, an episode or a storyline, and then we're going to focus on a character. And we felt that in this first episode, we should focus on the first episode ever of Leyline High, and then, of course, the character we focus on has to be head teacher Mr. Talbot, played by the brilliant Arthur Lately. Who's an amazing actor who's in he's one of those people that you just look up his IMDb and it's like you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
He played a Gamorrean guard in
Yes,
Star
he
Wars.
did.
Am I reading that right?
Yeah, he did.
Gamorrean guard.
He did.
Which is one of those big green ones, right?
That's right.
In Return of the Jedi.
I don't know.
That's right.
You're talking to the wrong person. Too much action.
I don't know who I'm talking to now. Someone American.
So you'll recognise him from loads of
Yeah,
things.
it's one of those faces that you've just seen in a million episodes, but also other things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
I think Arthur Lately would probably be quite pissed off that this is what he's remembered for most.
For sure.
To be honest, because he's apparently a genuinely brilliant Shakespearean actor. Like, did a lot of, he worked at the RSC and was quite tetchy about the fact that he is Mr. Talbot. And that's what he was remembered as. And obviously, when he sadly passed away and it was all over the news, it was the headlines were Mr. Talbot from Leyline High.
Yeah.
And so, and it was, I remember reading... this article that was sort of saying, after years of battling demons and fighting ghosts, sadly Mr. Talbot has passed away, and I thought, he would hate that.
Yes, he would
have
hate
hated
it.
that.
That was the thing everyone led with, but of course they did.
But
the weird thing is, one of my friends who's a stage manager did like a small play with him, and apparently, and although obviously he would hate it if you were to bring it up, he would use it as well. So he would be like, when I was in Leyline High,
I love it.
Like crowbarring in anecdotes at every opportunity.
He loved an anecdote. I've seen some interviews with him. He loves an anecdote.
Yeah.
I
love that.
Yeah, I know. They sort of like used that as his nickname of like the letters of WIW. We will when I was in Leyline High.
What are you trying to say? Was that the show where he played a talking tree?
Yeah.
And he had to stay on stage for the entire time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it was sort of like a kind of like Beckett type style, trying to be sort of no offense to the playwright, it was apparently really good. But yeah, exactly. It was at the Malvern Theatre.
And it was only him. It was just him as a tree.
Yeah, and a bunch of stage managers who were like, "Oh my god, this guy!"
And they had to literally wheel him off, didn't they? So like there was this kind of like symbiotic relationship between them. They had to help each other out.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
Yeah, nightmare. So yeah, he was a right grouch, not to speak ill of the dead, but he was one of those actors. But yeah,
but he's brilliant as Mr. Talbot, and
so
were
early
you a bit
on,
scared of him?
Yeah, absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Even like early on when he just goes a word.
Yes.
It's just, oh my God, it just sends shivers down her.
So we should also say Arthur Lately for the first few series, the joke was that he always just missed the supernatural stuff happening.
So in that scene there, he completely misses
it.
But he sees the aftermath. Like, he clearly must see all the blood.
Yeah, but he will always assume it's an earthly, like, it's the students behaving badly again.
Yeah. They're having a nosebleed again.
Exactly.
But that's a stretch to justify that, right?
Yes.
And I think he knew, and he Arthur Lately, got really wound up that he was missing all of the cool stuff.
Yeah.
So a few seasons later, he insisted that he gets involved in the supernatural stuff, and from then on, I think it's better actually that he's like leading.
He's in on it.
Yeah, he's leading the kids away from the danger and so on. So I think he wanted to be a bit of a superhero.
I actually made a supercut of all the times he says a word.
Yeah, we should say, because for the first few seasons, it's almost all he says.
Yeah. Listen to this. I was going to put it to music, but I decided not to.
Okay, here we go.
Dennis, a word. Veronica, a word.
But sir,
Miss McMaynard, a word. Tiffany, a word. Lord Asregard, a word. Robot 5000, a word. Patches, a word. Amadeus Mozart, a word. A Victorian boy who came through a portal in the fountain, a word. Children, by my calculation, we should be directly underneath the school assembly hall. Follow me if you want to live.
Amazing. I love the fact that they got away with that.
Oh,
Like-
goodness.
A word.
Do you reckon the writers found it funny? Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's really funny that all he says is a word,
Yeah.
and it's literally a couple of words that he says.
a word.
A words. A words.
I was going to say, yeah, like you said, he was annoyed to miss the supernatural stuff, but also he was annoyed about a lot of things. He was also annoyed because he felt like his whole range as an actor was not being fully
Yeah,
utilised,
yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
he was this classically trained actor. I think he'd worked with
And
Olivia.
also,
and-
if he's in for the long run, why
Yeah.
not? You know, he should be in.
true.
Yeah. Good on it. Good on
yeah,
him.
good on him.
Good on
You
him.
Go for it, Arthur.
Yeah.
So I think weren't there a few times when things got really crowbarred in just to show off his
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that sounds like he was pulling the strings at that point. It was like, I want to have a storyline.
About
Totally.
this.
Yeah.
So we should also say, famously, he. I was going to say he was let go from the series, and it caused quite a stir. Because it was like, what did he jump or was he pushed? Did he want to leave? What the sort of the bottom line was, they always said, the company line was that it was a mutual decision that he would leave the show after something like 17 years. He would leave the show, but there
It's
were
very
always
specific, 17 years, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? So you think, a lot of rumours immediately started flying around that it was because he was just becoming an unmanageable person on the set. That he
which
was,
happens a lot, doesn't it?
His ego had got so...
Yeah.
Because I think he was playing the head teacher, and I think he started to sort of almost see himself as the head teacher of the show.
Yeah,
He's like,
he's-
I'm in charge.
He started like addressing crew members, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like the DP or whatever. A word.
A word.
Yeah.
Word. Yes.
Like telling
So-
them off for having their jumpers around their waist or whatever.
There was that
apparently that did happen.
There was that one story where he was sort of getting ready and he gets into character.
Yeah.
And he came out the makeup trailer.
Yeah.
And there was that new actor on the set. And he said, Mr. Talbot is ready. And the new actor sort of sniggered.
Yeah.
And then he was like a word to the producer and he was like fired. I don't know if this is true.
I bet. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Because his power had become a bit unwieldy. And
Yeah.
it's not, in a way, it's not just his fault because they all enabled that. Like the production company. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that does happen a lot.
Yeah.
And with the whole crowbarring his skills in, there's that episode where he walks on his hands. Do you remember? Because when he was at RADA, that was one of the
things he
learned
did
in
that.
movement. So
And how did they do that stuff on the ceiling as well? Did they have like a rotating set or something
Well,
like
did
that?
they
That's
just-
really ahead of its time, isn't it? Because,
Yeah.
you know, do you remember that Jamiroquai video? Not to bring up
Yes.
Jamiroquai.
No,
but,
please bring
but
up
this was like
Jamiroquai.
20, this was like 20, 30 years before.
yeah.
Before that.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
random reference. I didn't think I'd be talking about Jamiroquai.
So when he was let go, there was
Yeah.
a famous, I think you probably know what I'm going to talk about. There's a clip when he came out and he, in front of the press, he was asked, like, were you fired?
Yeah.
And he addresses the press. And you can find this clip on YouTube, but we're going to play the audio of it now.
It was my decision to leave the show and only mine. As my agent said, all things must come to an end and all beauty must die. I will be moving on from this to pastures anew. I have many strings in the fire. A one-man show which I have written where I play Samuel Pepys. Hopefully revisiting the Bard at some point. And this Christmas, you'll be able to see me as Baron Hardup in Cinderella at the Swan Theatre in Worcester. Any questions?
Mr. Leyline, what about the rumours that you didn't jump, you were pushed?
No more questions.
Can you imagine that now? Like on a children's TV show,
Yeah.
having a press conference with an actor that's just left.
Being that big, the show was that
It was
big.
that big.
Do you even
but-
see press conferences these days?
No.
Well,
Do you
you'd
think-
see.
Well, only for like proper news.
Yeah.
Not for like celebs. But that's the
No,
thing.
good point.
TV could be really big back then, couldn't
Mm-hmm.
it?
Because there was no streaming.
Yeah.
There were. This is 72, so there were 3 channels.
Yeah.
When this goes out. We should also say that when he was finally allowed to have interactions as a character with the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
There was some brilliant stuff. So eventually, they made Mr. Talbot's wife like an evil dimension ghost.
Oh, that was.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I found that really emotional.
Oh God, you would.
But especially because.
What in particular?
Well, I think the real life situation of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say,
Yeah.
like, because he had a really messy divorce.
Really messy
Yeah.
divorce.
And apparently, my friend that worked with him did say it was he was quite a broken.
Well, there was
soul.
that
Do you know what I mean?
he
In
was
real
on
life.
that he was on that kids game show, wasn't he, where they gunked people, and
Yeah.
who was the other guest? But he brought it
Pat
up
Sharp.
on. Yeah, he.
Oh no,
brought-
Pat Sharp was hosting it.
Yeah, Pat
Yeah,
Sharp was.
I can't
So
remember who the other
yeah, but he brought the other guest brought it up that he'd had going through this divorce, and
Yes.
it really got you could see it.
That is one of the most awkward bits
So
of
awkward.
television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think. You'll have to Google that, but it's awful. But
But yeah, sorry, you were saying about the wife. You go on.
I was saying this is a quote, right? This is after he left, so he could be a bit more gloves off. It says that when they made Mr. Talbot's wife an evil dimension ghost, he says, "My real wife Barbara was also from hell, so it made those scenes pretty easy."
Wow.
Exactly.
That's so rough.
It's so rough.
That's probably from his diaries,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I
Because he
think
also
so.
he wrote a letter to his grandchildren about the fact that he was on Star Wars, saying he was
Yeah.
inexorable shit, right?
yeah, he thought he did not like Star Wars at all. He was not
Sorry
proud
for the
to be
swear,
part
by
of
the way.
it. Yes, apologies for swearing.
But it was part of the quote, so
He was nominated for a BAFTA for his portrayal of Mr. Talbot, but did.
Aww.
And it was an amazing episode that he
that's
was.
gonna hurt.
Do you remember? Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Do you remember the
We've
episode?
all been there, right?
we've all been there.
He was. It was for a brilliant episode actually called Doppelmaster,
Oh,
where
yes.
there are like. It is a bit of a tour de force as an actor because there are like a dozen exact copies.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
Mr. Talbot.
I remember
a lot
that.
to get your
It was
head
Sports
round.
Day as well, wasn't it? So there was a Mr.
That's
Talbot
right.
that was three-legged
That's
with
right,
Mr.
that's
Talbot,
right.
the three-legged race.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there was another
really good
pair of Mr.
episode.
Talbots. Then they were racing against each
Yeah.
other.
Okay. So the four.
Yeah.
Four of them.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant episode. That. It's
it's so
they
good.
did some split screening. I understand.
Yeah. So what they do is they lock off. So they call
right.
it a lock off. For the purposes of the listeners, they lock off the shot. So that means that the camera doesn't move, and they
right.
they shoot the scene, and then they shoot it again. But Mr. Talbot or Arthur's in a different place.
Yeah.
I thought I just
It's good that.
put
I
that
think
in.
it looks all right.
Yeah.
But they use it sparingly. So there are most of the time it's a stand-in, and they have to sort of judiciously shoot from the back.
Yeah.
But he said that he gave each one of the different Mr. Talbots a little
Quirk.
Like one of them would have like their foot turned. He says, one had a left foot slightly turned in. The one outside the art department, he said, had a slightly weak R sound, so he was doing vocal stuff.
He did one German.
Were any of well, that was noticeable, but were
Yeah.
any of these other little subtleties noticeable on the screen?
No, that was the hilarious thing.
Just in his own mind.
Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. That was such a sort of like someone's read their Stanislavski.
Yes.
Yeah.
But well, also, have you ever heard any interviews with the stand-ins? Because obviously there were like several stand-ins for the three-legged.
Yeah. Yeah, someone has to do that.
Yeah,
really.
exactly. And one of them has talked about it, but not mentioning any names.
Right.
But he's like, oh yeah, when I did a stand-in for one particular actor, it was one of the worst days of my life.
Wow,
But
because he was
mentioning
directly in the firing
Yeah,
line,
exactly, all day.
tied to Arthur Lately. Oh my, a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
There must have been a moment where Arthur kicked off because he
Yeah.
started getting these massive storylines.
Like
Right?
Yeah.
brilliant, the brilliant scenes, brilliant storylines. So he's obviously made sure that the writers are writing for him and his talents. And Mr. Talbot's breakdown, as
Yeah.
it's known, this is an amazing scene in which I think all of Arthur Lately's.
Don't give too much away.
Yeah, good point. I won't. But let's just say all of Arthur Lately's acting talents are on full display here. Here we go.
Well, Mumsy, here we are. You always told me I'd never amount to anything and that I was always such a disappointment to you. But now look at me. Everybody bowing to my will, doing exactly what I tell them to do.
Get down on the floor and put the money in the bag. And sit down. The bell is for me and not for you.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm panicking.
Is
that Patricia Phillips? You always did let yourself down in high-pressure situations, Patricia. Now, nice and calm. Think before you do. Calm hands. Remember, pone quinquaginta peram in stupri.
What does that mean, sir?
It means put all the 50s in the bag.
Yeah.
Quickly! Quicker! Quicker than that!
He was robbing a bank.
I love the bit that the bank teller is an ex-pupil.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
In his mind.
Oh, so, do
You
you
can,
think
yeah. Well,
In his mind. Oh, interesting.
No,
It's
it's
in
not
his
in his mind.
it's real?
It's
I
real.
assumed it was real.
Well, it depends how you interpret it, maybe.
Oh,
'Cause-
multi-layered.
Yeah, like, because sometimes things were. I mean, the gap between reality and supernatural was quite
very
thin.
blurred
Yeah.
on this show.
So
Yeah.
by this point, you're like, well, who knows? You know what
and
I mean?
like wheels within wheels. I think there's
Yeah.
definitely there are whole series that were wiped out as just like, oh, that happened in someone's head. Like,
yes,
you know,
that was a dream. Do you
That was
remember
a
that
dream.
series
Yeah.
8, which was
Yeah.
like an entire dream?
the
How
whole thing was a dream.
unsatisfying!
Yeah.
The final episode.
The whole thing because someone had been knocked out and it had
Yes.
happened.
That has to be
In
such
there.
an anticlimax if you were completely invested.
Yeah.
Also, there
In
were
the-
actors were hired on that series that then it was wiped out, so they can't come back the following series, and they were.
Although there is one that
There
we
is
will
one.
talk about
Yeah,
later.
there
In
is
the...
one.
Yeah, those actors were not happy.
And there was
That's
a curse,
interesting.
right?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
There
my
was like
goodness.
this curse.
People say there is a Leyline High curse, which is that a lot
Don't say it out
of.
loud.
Sorry.
Wait, if we're going to do the curse stuff, I'm going to put on some spooky music.
Oh, amazing.
But a lot of people who worked on the show, and particularly the actors who were in the show, went on to have really unfortunate things happen to them or unusual things happen to them. So, for example, there is an actor, and we will talk about her in a future episode, who is now runs a cult in Wiltshire.
Yeah.
Right? And she was a prominent actor in the 80s, there were later series in the 80s. And then there are a couple of actors who just disappeared after
Yeah.
this. There are also from the early 70s, there are some missing episodes from the BBC archives. So
Wasn't there a mysterious fire?
there was a fire in a physical archival building that meant
Yes.
that a lot of episodes were
Well, you
lost.
say
yeah.
it's an archival building. It was the shed of one of
It
the,
was
the producers, right?
it was a shed. Yeah,
Was it-
it was a yeah. Archival building is maybe a fancy term, but
Yeah.
it was a shed. Yes, it's true. There are a lot of odd things have happened around the show, but we'll talk about whether the curse is real in a future episode.
Yeah.
It is.
So I think that's just about wraps it up for this first episode of Leyline High Rewind. We will be back with another episode. If you want to see us cover a particular episode or storyline or character that is your favourite, do get in touch with us and let us know your favourite characters over the 30 years of Leyline High. You can find us on Blue Sky if you just search Leyline High, and we are on Gmail. Email us at leylinehighrewind@gmail.com.
And in the true essence of a Leyline High episode, we're going to end on a moral.
Yes, they used to say, the writing team used to say that every episode has a moral, which is tough to stick to
know.
after 14,000 episodes, whatever
Right?
it was.
It was stuff like always bend at the knees when lifting heavy
Yeah,
boxes. and
it
things
got-
like that.
it
And was
got
just
very
like,
woolly.
That was definitely not any of that happened.
Is that a
there was
moral?
there was no, yeah,
Or just some good
there's
advice.
no connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is the moral of this first episode then?
The moral for this first episode is
Never bully
bully
a
someone
demon.
from up north.
Leyline High Rewind was written, improvised and produced by us, Susan Harrison, Thomas Nelstrop and Gemma Arrowsmith. Editing and sound production by Thomas Nelstrop. Music by Mason St. Pellorth. Artwork by Tom Crowley. If you enjoyed the show, give us a review on iTunes, Spotify, Podchaser or wherever you get your podcasts. But more importantly, get in touch with us to share your memories of Leyline High, the show everyone remembers. You can email us or send us a voice note at leylinehighrewind@gmail.com. You can also get in touch via Blue Sky at leylinehighrewind.bsky.social and find us on Instagram at Leyline High Rewind or visit our website leylinehigh.com.